everyone. Welcome to a book talk.
I'm Barbara.
Oh, I'm Justine.
Today, we are going to be discussing a John Green book, Turtles All the Way Down, which I feel like is not the most famous one, so I'm glad we're talking about it.
Yay.
Okay, so just overall, let's just talk overall. What are our thoughts? What are our feelings?
I liked it.
Me too. I read it a while ago and I liked it. It was good. I don't fully remember what happened now, but I enjoyed it when I read it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's been a hot second, but again, I wrote the summary and stuff, and I just remember it being really relatable, but also it was very good topic that they brought up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that he kind of really focused on her mental illness, because then when people read it, they could be like, hey, that's how I feel also, so they don't have to feel like they're alone or feel crazy or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So can we talk about Davis? I feel like he's a character I just really wanted to talk about because I never knew how I felt about him throughout the entire story.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the love interest?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember their names.
I just love it.
Yeah.
And so I just found it really interesting that what happened was is inspecting his dad, trying to find out where he disappeared to.
Mm-hmm.
So she finds something that's she finds something that's suspicious, and Davis refused to trust her that she wouldn't tell anyone. So Davis literally gave her $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of whack, because
yeah.
I was glad that John Green didn't make him to be the jerk, preppy, rich kid who's just I don't need you guys or whatever.
Yeah.
But then I thought it was kind of weird that he was literally here's $100,000, and then she took it, but then they continued to be friends, because I thought he was paying her off to stay silent and leave him alone, but then they kept hanging out.
Yeah, it was more just to keep her silent, but also I'm if I was the love interest, I wouldn't take it.
Right.
If you're gonna be dating someone, you can't really I feel like that's not chill. That's not
because then I would just feel like I was forever in debt to that person, even if they're no, it's fine, I'm rich, don't worry about it. $100,000 is nothing.
He literally pulled it out of the cereal box. It was just chilling there. I'm
oh my gosh, I forgot about that. That's crazy. Yeah. No, that's crazy. No, but I remember that, and I remember being no, that makes sense. And I don't know, I think I know why it makes sense to me, because I was I feel like if I were him, right, I would do that. If I had that money and it was just laying around and it was I really want to figure out what happened with my dad, I would give her $100,000,
Yeah, but then it's just weird, because when people pay other people like that in the movies, they don't keep hanging out with them.
Not love interest. It's more a work partnership
that turns into love. Yeah, it was crazy. I wish that they, well, I don't know, I wish that they did make a movie of it, because I would be interested to see what it looks like in real life, because I feel whenever I read books, I imagine it, I know what it looks like in my brain, but I don't know what it looks like.
I almost don't want a movie picture of it, or maybe I do, I don't know. I think it'd be hard, because with anxiety and stuff and her panic attacks, I feel on the outside you don't see that in the book, the one telling it, so you can go through her thought process, but in real life it's just kind of a blank stare. It's you're not there's not always a reaction to it, so I feel it'd be hard to portray.
And I feel movie narration too is not as good as book narration.
Yeah.
I feel if they tried to do narration for the panic attacks, it'd be oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And I would be that takes away from the entire goodness of the book.
I feel it's almost okay if they created a movie as long as you read the book, because then you still get the emotional feeling of it, because you remember reading it.
Yeah.
Like, for anyone who's not going to read the book, they're not going to get the full impact of.
Right.
Can we talk about how the whole estate and everything, that rich guy left it to his pet lizard?
Yeah.
I know. That's some rich guy stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I don't love my kids.
I don't even get how.
Yeah.
It must have been a pretty cool lizard.
I really hope so.
Wasn't there, I don't remember, but wasn't there like a lizard handler, like a special lizard handler on the estate?
Yep.
Was that his only job, was to just look at the lizard all day?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, because he was trying to, because the lizard had something in its blood that like stopped it from aging. So the rich guy, Mr. Pickett, he wanted to find it and like capture it and then sell it to people so they could like inject it and then they could stop aging also. Right. And he was going to get like super rich.
Yeah.
Which is some whack
that's
stuff.
Interesting also, because I feel like if we dove into that more, I feel like Turtles All the Way Down definitely could have been more of like a sci-fi novel. Like if it was like, if it was more about like, oh, finding the like the thing in the lizard's blood to make it like an anti-aging serum, like it would be way more sci-fi.
Yeah, and I thought that the lizard handler would be like some big villain, you know, like I'm gonna keep the secret.
Yeah. But it's so weird how he's just a character there and we just like don't even think about it.
Yeah, didn't dive into
it's just like, yeah, he watches the lizard for the weird non-aging blood.
I forgot all about the anti-aging thing until just now.
Yeah, me too.
Wow. I was reading this summary, and they were just like, yeah, the only character you're really able to connect with is the main character. Like, he doesn't give you a chance to really see into the minds or feelings of any of the other people. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, everyone else is kind of seen at a distance.
Yeah, which I think is realistic, though, because, like, no matter, like, when it's coming from, like, one person's perspective, like, you're never really gonna know that much about other people. Like, you see how people portray themselves, and, like, the main character, what's the main character's name?
Asa or something. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Asa?
I think that's
Asa. But you see how like Asa, like she like reads his poetry and stuff online, and like in real life that's kind of all you would get. Like we could tell how he's feeling from like how he acts and what he wrote, but like I would never truly know what he was thinking or how he felt, you know? So I think it's cool how like realistic that is. Because I feel like for some books, they kind of like switch perspectives to like get a full storyline, but we got a full storyline without it doing that.
Yeah.
I think.
No, I agree. And I also think that also reminds me a lot of her and Daisy's relationship. Because if you remember, she wrote a whole fanfic about her distresses about Asa, and Asa did not know, like didn't read her fanfics or anything, and then one day stumbled across it, was like, oh, okay, I'll read them, and then read them, and it was all about how like kind of like how she is anxious and like ruins everything. And like yeah, so it's like really kind of heartbreaking, but then like as it goes along, Asa kind of like sees her side, which I think is really interesting, because like throughout the whole book you didn't even know that Daisy was feeling that way until like oh yeah, Daisy. Asa's thing with like bacteria.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting, but I like feel so bad because like when she would kiss Davis, she just would freak out because she's like his bacteria.
Yeah.
And she drank hand sanitizer.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I think about that, like, especially during the pandemic, like, that, like, popped up in my brain, like, so many times, how she did that.
I honestly didn't think about it until we started talking about this book, and then it came back, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing that she does on her finger where she, like, breaks it open and then rebandages it and stuff, that is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, like, the lengths that mental health puts people to, like, physically. Like, I think when people think mental health, they think, like, you know, inside your brain, but it doesn't only affect inside your brain, like, clearly. And I think that showed it very well, where it's like, she was nervous about bacteria. That's not a thing that's inside your head. That's a thing that exists literally everywhere. And it affected every part of her life, which I think was portrayed really well in the book.
I agree.
Oh, the car accident with Asa and Daisy.
Uh-huh.
They were on their way to Applebee's and they were arguing in the car about the Star Wars fan fiction, and they like rear-end the person in front of them, and then 2 more people hit him from the back, and it was the whole thing. And literally, well, Asa was like in pain, destroyed from this car wreck. She got out of the car and went around to the trunk just to look for her dad's old phone.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I forgot about the dad's whole storyline.
Like, she goes to the hospital and they're like, okay, you lacerated your liver. So just imagine like walking around with a lacerated liver just to like try and get in your trunk.
Yeah, but you gotta think that like the adrenaline like would definitely be pumping.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like that whole car accident / hospital thing, like when I first got to that part of the book, I thought it was going to be like one of those turning points where it's like, okay, and then she starts taking her medicine and then she automatically gets better and whatever, but it didn't, and I'm glad that it didn't, because again, with the realistic thing, like,
yeah,
but it's definitely
staying in a hospital and talking to a therapist doesn't automatically cure you.
Yeah.
I definitely think it was a necessary piece though, because again, drinking hand sanitizer, and I feel like they wouldn't have figured that one out if she hadn't had gone to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it would have been a lot worse.
You could definitely die from that. Yeah.
Yeah. No bueno.
Wow, yeah, the dad's whole storyline. I forgot about that too. Until the car accident thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he does kind of have a storyline. He died, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that was like kind of a big part, and that's also kind of a big talking point in the relationship between the main character and her mom too, because obviously it affects the family. But I think it's really interesting how she kept that memento, like his phone, like for that entire time that he's been dead, and it means so much to her.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I feel like it's very interesting, like, again, with the point we brought up earlier, that, like, so many of these characters, they could have their whole own story.
Yeah.
Like, because, like, that, like, is a key thing, and then, again, with, like, I feel like Davison himself has a whole story that, like, we have.
Yeah.
Yep. They can make, like, a whole nother book.
And, of course, Mr. Pickett himself, like, I don't remember. Do we ever find out exactly what happened? Like, we find his body, but did we ever figure out what happened to him, or was it just the body?
I don't think we ever figure out. Like,
I don't remember, but I think we were supposed to assume something. I don't remember the something. But I think we're supposed to assume something.
Yeah, I feel like, again, like, I feel like even though Mr. Pickett, he was a big piece of the storyline, he wasn't the storyline, you know?
Right.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And I think that was really cool, because I think that's how it is in real life. Like, there's never just one thing happening. It's like there's one thing happening, and then there's this other thing happening, and then this other thing also comes up, and they're all part of the story. And he, like, John Green doesn't make it look like jumbled or feel like he's throwing in a bunch of different storylines that we don't understand. Like, it felt like real life, like we were able to comprehend it.
Yeah.
I guess. It was cool.
And I love the metaphor, which is turtles all the way down. So, like, the turtle just rests on the turtle's back, and then another and then another, and then another. And I just feel like that is such a good. I just feel like that there's so much you could say with that, like, because, like, yes, it represents her mental thought, but it's also kind of like life. Like, there's always something else. Like,
yeah,
never like an end to like anything really.
yeah. Because even after you die, like, there's still stuff happening. Like, life doesn't stop and the world doesn't stop when someone dies too.
Yep.
So there's never an end to anything ever.
Exactly. Oh, and I definitely think that this book was definitely realistic in most senses, but it made me so mad that Davis just like moved to Colorado.
Yeah.
And like they just live lives now, and I'm like, that's 100% what would happen in real life. 100%.
Yeah.
Did I want it to happen? No. Like,
yeah, I agree. But I remember when I read it, I really appreciated that, because I feel like, especially for YA novels, they always end with like the picture perfect ending. And I think John Green is really good at being like, this is how it would end.
yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna like make up some like fictional fairy tale life. Like, that's not how it is ever. And I like those endings like that. That, like, because it feels different. Because I feel like when you're reading a book, you're like, it's easy to predict what's gonna happen. It's like, okay, well, they're gonna end up together, and like everything's gonna end up fine, and like they're gonna find the dad, blah.
Yeah.
But he always kind of twists it at the end, and not like in a like twist. It's just kind of like, it's not gonna be a book happy ending, because that's not what the story is. And I think that's really interesting and a really good way to end a story, even if it is disappointing, because I really do want them to end up together, but
yeah,
you know.
I feel like, those kind of endings are definitely necessary, because it does people that life does move on after any situation. Like,
yeah.
And it kind of left us with the wonder factor too. Like, you know, maybe someday they might meet up again. We have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when I finished it too, I was like, there better be a second book. But like, I think it would be ruined if there was a second book. Like, I don't want to know. Like, I want to wonder. I want to be like, oh, maybe they will get together one day. Like, maybe it's fate. But I feel like if there were a second book, like if it were resolved, I would not feel as satisfied with the storyline as I do now. I'd be like, nah, I didn't want to know.
Yeah, a lot of books, a lot of stories, they just need to end where they ended in the first one.
Yeah.
Some people take it way too far with series. And then
yeah.
No, I think John Green, he doesn't have any series, doesn't he? Like he always leaves them. And I think that's
and they're all always different. Like, I feel like many of his books have to do with some kind of like disease, like a mental disorder or like cancer, or something like that. But like, they're all very different. Like, it never feels like he's copying any of his other books or storylines. Like, and it's never just like a love story. It's all like very different stories, and it's really interesting how his brain just makes them. Like, that is so interesting to me, how people make books.
And I think it's good because again, it's more like relatable to some people, because like every other YA book is like, oh, I'm just a high school girl and I have a best friend and I have like a perfect boyfriend or girlfriend, and I just I have a problem with one of my friends and stuff. But then with John Green, it's like, hey, you have this mental illness that people think they can understand when they really can't. Maybe this will make you feel better. It's like, hey, you might have cancer or be sick or something. This is a book for you.
He definitely touches on something more important. Like, I feel like a lot of authors are scared to reach those topics, because they're hard topics to like discuss, but he definitely does them, and he does them very well.
Yeah, he does them very well, because he has a good mix of like, he talks about the hard subjects, but he doesn't romanticize them, which I think is a problem in a lot of novels, where it's like they romanticize having cancer or like being depressed or anxious, and it's not a romantic thing. It's very hard. Like, it's not good. And I think John Green is really good at showing like yes, you can be sad about all of these things and also feel love, you know, but it's never about like, oh, you feel love because you're feeling bad about this thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And he does that very well. Like, he doesn't kind of mock any disorders that he brings up in his books, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I do enjoy bringing up to your thing that you can feel love as well. That he definitely brings in happier, like, obviously there's always happy moments in everyone's, and he doesn't focus just on all the negative. Like, there's usually some kind of comedic point in, like, somewhere within the story involved. So I think that's great that he does that. Like, while life can suck sometimes, it also can be pretty great. So
I feel like this was like kind of all over the place, so sorry. We really did not plan very well. But it was fun to talk about it. I kind of forgot the storyline. Like, I knew like the general like themes, but I didn't really remember it. And I'm glad that I get to talk about it and remember this story that when I read it was like a very big part of my life, because it really is so realistic, and it, like, I really connected to it. It was a really good book when I read it, and I'm glad that we get to talk about it again.
I agree. Like, when we were talking about John Green books, I was like, because like most people they'll talk about Fault in Our Stars and like Looking for Alaska, because those are popular movies. But I feel like this one's such a good one that's like so under talked about. Like, it's just, no, it was definitely that it existed, and that, and I definitely need to read it again.
Yes, me too. Also, I didn't read Looking for Alaska, but the show on Hulu, fantastic.
Oh,
and
yes.
Yeah, and like it felt like I was reading a book, and like I haven't read the book, but I hope that it's about the same, because I really felt connected to that show. Like it was like a book that I couldn't put down, but it was a show. It was great.
The only thing that I was mad about in the show compared to the book was the moment with the fox. Do you remember that part?
Yeah.
When they like do they call him the fox all the entire? I don't think they call him the fox the entire time, but it was in that secret mission that they called that one guy the fox, and I just felt like it wasn't as funny to me in the show as it was in the book. Like, that was a big comedic moment, and they kind of just threw it in the show, and I was like, you could have held on to that. You could have like made that better, and they didn't. I was like, that was a missed opportunity, and I was so mad about it. But I enjoy shows 10 times more because I feel like you are able to fully grip everything about the book.
Yeah.
It makes me so mad when people like make a movie and then leave out half the like the
yeah
details.
Yeah, and that's why, like, I haven't read the book, so obviously I don't know, but it felt like they had so many details. Like, it didn't feel like a TV show. It felt like a book.
Yeah.
And it was really good. So if you have read Looking for Alaska, which I haven't, or if you haven't read it, watch that show on Hulu if you have it. It's delightful. I hope it's still on Hulu. It was so good. And the soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
I saved so many songs from that soundtrack. It was fantastic.
Really good. Yeah. I think all the actors, like, I do not know any of those actors. Like, I feel like they are not well-known actors. But
yeah.
They all did a fantastic job.
Yeah. And the main character, the guy, which I don't remember his name. I'm so bad at names.
I can't.
But the main character, he's coming out with a new movie that was based off of a book, I believe. I can't remember the title, but it's about having schizophrenia as a teen.
The only book I read about schizophrenia, which is so good, was called Schizo, and it was written by Nick Sheriff, I want to say, but it was very good. But I don't know if that's the one. Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it says something about walls in the title, like wall or something. I don't know. I don't remember. I wish I could remember. If any of you guys know it, put it in the comments. I have no idea.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't read Turtles All the Way Down, we obviously clearly recommend it, though there were some spoilers throughout this.
Sorry. We should have put a disclaimer at the beginning.
Yeah. But yeah, so thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the next book talk.
Bye.